September 11th, 2018 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Elkoffer? Here. Mr. Ansello? Here. Mr. Baroth? Here. Ms. Boyce? Mr. Brew? Here. President Carbone?
Here.
Mrs. Conley? Here. Mr. Delahanty?
Here.
Mrs. DeFlorio?
Here.
Mrs. Draw?
Here.
Mr. Felder?
Here.
Mr. Flagler-Mitchell?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Hebert?
Here.
Mr. Howland?
Here.
Ms. Cayley?
Here.
Mr. Lightfoot?
Here.
Mr. Mafucci?
Here.
Mr. Marinetti is excused. Mr. Michike?
Here.
Mr. Morelli?
Here.
Mr. Moyo?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Mr. Shepard?
Here.
Ms. Taylor? Mr. Terp?
Here.
Mr. Wilcox?
Here.
Mr. Wilt?
Here.
Mr. Zal?
Here.
Please stay seated. I'd like to introduce Pastor Susan Garofalo of the First Congregational Church of Riga, who has been invited by Legislator Steve Brew to lead us in a moment of prayer.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Legislator Brew and all of you for this honor and this opportunity to serve in this capacity. We've gathered here to prepare to focus on the work that is set before us. But before the work begins, please join me in an attitude of prayer, each one of us according to our individual beliefs. For today is a day to be thankful, to remember, and to hope. We gather in thanks for our lives and for the lives of those we love, for the gifts that we have and for the opportunities and the choices that we have. We gather remembering that life isn't perfect or easy for any of us. There are many in our communities who struggle for a number of reasons, and we also remember that there are also many who are willing to offer assistance, comfort, and empowerment to those who do suffer. We gather remembering all of those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001, in New York, in Washington, D.C., and in Pennsylvania, and all of those who were injured. We remember their families and loved ones, so many who have had to pick up broken pieces of their lives and carry on the legacies of those that were lost far too soon. We gather remembering the courage and the bravery of so many, public servants and citizens alike, who come together, police officers, first responders, military personnel, who put themselves in harm's way to save others and to help we rebuild when the worst happens. We gather in hope that the power greater than all of us will grant this assembly of public servants and the citizens it collectively serves the wisdom, the courage, and the compassion necessary to address the pressing matters of our time. With thanks, in remembrance, and in hope, let us begin. Amen.
Please stand before we pledge allegiance to the flag. I'd like to observe a moment of silence in remembrance of 9/11. Legislator Tanya Connolly will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, be seated. Your copy of the Journal of Day 9, August 14th, 2018 is available on your tablet. Without exception, the journal will stand approved as submitted. There's a hearing loop in place tonight to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire in the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic devices in your possession, I would request that you make it inaudible for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are available on your tablet as well as online. This evening there are several proclamations scheduled. Madam Clerk.
Would Holly Dutcher please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone and County Executive Cheryl Donalfo. Okay. Would William Horish please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone, County Executive Cheryl Donalfo, Legislator Matt Terp, and Legislator George Hebert. Should be the next one.
This one right here. There you go.
Monroe County is home to a vast network of successful small businesses. In order to create a successful small business, passion, hard work, and determination must be involved. Bill Horace and the Kettleberger family have served our community through Kettleberger Florist and Gifts for the past 90 years. The official opening date of Kettleberger Florist and Gifts was 1928, but it actually began much earlier. And whereas after 4 generations and counting, the floral and gift shop has altered its business to keep up with today's shifts in society. Initially, just a small floral store in the open fields, Kettleberger now has over 24,000 square feet of retail space. Beyond florals, the shop is a complete boutique with jewelry, gift items, fashion, and home decor. Additionally, this family-owned and run shop is supplying 59 members of our community with jobs. And whereas from the small floral shop placed in the mass amounts of farmland came a retail store in the 1960s, selling floral arrangements for weddings and funerals with greenhouses for annual flowers. Bill Horace shines praise to his parents, Hilda and Martin, with growing the retail portion of the family business. And whereas Kettleberger expanded beyond florals and gifts 3 years ago with the opening of the Pub 235 restaurant next to the floral gift shop. They served excellent food and drinks in a relaxing atmosphere. The pub restaurant has provided 49 additional jobs. We thank Bill Horace and the Kettleberger family for contributions to the community. Now therefore, we, Cheryl Donalfo County Executive, Dr. Joe Carbone President, Matthew Terp, Legislator District 8, and George J. Hebert, Legislator District 15, on behalf of Monroe County, do hereby recognize and congratulate Kettleberger Florist and Gifts on their well-deserved 90-year celebration.
On behalf of my family, I'd like to thank the county for recognizing us, and also the people of Monroe County for supporting us for 90 years. We're proud to be here, and hopefully we're going to be here for another 90. We've got our 4th generation in place, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you very kindly.
Would Myra Ortiz please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone and County Executive Cheryl Donalfo. The education of our children is paramount to the growth and success of our community. The men and women who dedicate their lives to childhood education are also dedicating their lives to the future of our community. This is especially true of educators who reach out to children from all backgrounds and cultures and work in multilingual educational settings. Whereas Myra Ortiz is such an educator who has built an impressive career founded in bilingual education. She received both her bachelor's and master's degrees in New York State, becoming certified by one of the most rigorous educator programs nationwide. She has an MS in teaching English as a second language and received an additional certificate of advanced studies. She then spent decades as both a teacher and an administrator, always overseeing multilingual education among youth. And whereas Myra has both educated by and educated within our schools, she was a student at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. School No. 9 as a young girl, where her passion for learning and teaching first sparked. After going on to receive her various degrees and certifications, she came back to teach at the very school that inspired her. She dedicated years as a bilingual teacher in School No. 9, passing on her passion and inclusivity to the next generations of bilingual learners in our community. And whereas earlier this year, Myra was given the high honor of being named 2018 Bilingual Administrator of the Year by the New York State Association for Bilingual Education. She stood out among all her peers statewide and was chosen in part for the New York State ABE Conference theme of uncovering the talents of multilingual learners. This award is profound, and it represents the years of tireless work Myra has devoted to our youth. We are incredibly proud to say that Myra is one of our very own who went on to change our community and our world. Now, therefore, we, Cheryl Denolfo County Executive and Dr. Joe Carbone, President, on behalf of Monroe County, do hereby recognize and congratulate Myra Ortiz for being named 2018 Bilingual Administrator of the Year by the New York State Association for Bilingual Education.
If I could take a moment, I would just like to make a comparison of the work that you do here today with the work that teachers do. In the county legislature, you're responsible for the stewardship of all of your constituencies. Teachers have that responsibility of stewarding the children. The legislature develops policies and laws for the benefit of its communities. Teachers develop readers, writers, critical thinkers, and great citizens for the benefit of their communities. Both are determined to leave a positive legacy that ensures the growth, the success of our communities, our state, and this great nation. Yet while evidence of the impact of the legislator can be witnessed immediately, the evidence of impact of a teacher may come decades later. While I received this prestigious award, it was not wholly felt because the most important person that helped me get there wasn't sitting next to me. It was an amazing teacher, an inspirer of children, a builder of legacies. And her name is Mrs. D. Denolfo. And I want you, as you leave here today, to think about what will be your legacy as you leave and lead your lives moving forward. Once again, I thank you.
Is Holly Dutcher here? Cancer is the leading cause of death by disease past infancy for U.S. children. Each year, 175,000 children ages 14 and under are diagnosed with cancer. Sadly, in the United States, 1 in 5 children who are diagnosed will not survive the disease. Although treatment methods have come a long way and help save lives, they often cause health complications that affect childhood cancer patients for the rest of their lives. And whereas in the United States, September is recognized as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. The goal of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is to call attention to the types of cancer that affect children, to shine a light on the issues that survivors face, and to raise funds to support families, treatment, and research. It also serves as a tribute to the children who have lost their battle with cancer, the dedicated caretakers, and the organizations like CURE that work every day to support those affected by pediatric cancer. And whereas CURE Childhood Cancer Association was founded in 1976 by a group of parents who lost their children to cancer. They knew the importance of providing crucial support services to families who had a child with cancer. Today, CURE is a nationally recognized organization that has developed parent advocacy groups, programs, long-term educational assistance, peer-to-peer support, and more programs that support families in Monroe County. And whereas, although we recognize September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, there are families that are facing the challenges and fears that come with these diagnoses every single day. CURE Childhood Cancer Association is committed to supporting the families of children in Monroe County who are fighting for their lives. We are fortunate to have such a devoted and compassionate organization here in Monroe County, and we are so thankful for all that they have done for our community. Now, therefore, we, Cheryl Denolfo, County Executive, and Dr. Joe Carbone, President, on behalf of Monroe County, do hereby recognize CURE Childhood Cancer Association in recognition of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and their continued support of families who have children living with pediatric cancer.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. For those of you who don't know, there are on average about 50 children in the Rochester area that are diagnosed with cancer every year. CURE Childhood Cancer Association provides support to every single child in the area that's diagnosed with cancer and treated at Golisano Children's Hospital. Many people don't know this, but less than 4% of government-funded research is designated to over 200 different types of childhood cancers. So that's why Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is really important. If you see gold ribbons around town, I know the Irondequoit Town Hall has gold ribbons tied around it. I think there's other towns participating, but that's why it's to recognize the children that have fought and the children that we've lost to childhood cancer. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for recognizing this important month.
We will now recess for the purpose of holding a public hearing. I declare open the public hearing on local law intro number 235 of 2018 entitled Authorizing Lease Agreement for Surplus Property at 5 Castle Park in the City of Rochester, New York to Landmark Society of Western New York, Incorporated.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I will now reconvene the September 11th, 2018 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. Before we go into the public forum, I'd like to welcome John Jennings and his students from Roberts Wesleyan College. We will now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Madam Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first 3 speakers this evening will be Joanne Sassa, Al Morales, and Karen Spotton.
I'm here to ask you legislators to increase your important influence in the governance of our county, in spite of the power brokers in both parties and the outsider pay-to-play style influences that feed them. Even our personable, attractive, and well-educated county executive has taken on a Barbie doll role, surrounded by bureaucrats like Sleazer, Billy Napier, Rylick, and the Republican retirees at the Transportation Center. What if Adam Bello wins the next county executive election? Will he be just a puppet for people like Assemblyman Joe Morelli, who championed the building of Wilmot's Del Lago, adding to the continued Comida bailout of Wilmot's troubled malls by Teresa Mazzullo and Jeff Adair? I understand Wilmot's charity, but Economics 101 teaches, quote, no amount of charity can make up for poor government policy. I ask you legislators, in spite of the many difficulties and temptations you face, to use the power we invested in you for increased good government policy. I ask, too, that you are truly open to efforts from the opposite side of the aisle that I just walked down, and in particular to efforts by legislators representing our troubled city. On behalf of my husband, my children, and my grandchildren, I thank you for your services.
Good evening. Held accountable. How about the outcast? You want a person to pay $800 to $1,200 a month for rent. Even if they worked and got $300 a week, how do they pay rent, gas and electric, transportation, food, miscellaneous, mental, dental, and take care of children and family? Or SSI, $800 a month. You want to control and stay involved in people's lives and business, dependent on you. No life, always neither under a magnifying glass. Conditions you don't choose to live in. I find you guilty. Your standards and your laws, guilty of the people, by the people, and for the people. You who think and sit high and look low. You're not the God of the people. You're not our Savior. You're guilty of the worst sins. And God's going to judge you accountable and your families. Just as drugs hit our families when it was set up for our families, so will this too take effect upon yours. Your judgment day is not far off. Like the covers are being pulled off the White House, your Savior trump card has and will come to a final round. And guess who's holding the bag? You, one of yours, all of you highly selected will be affected. The poor, the homeless, the weak, abused, mistreated, addicted will fall on you. Be ready for your judgment day. It's not far off. And the payback doesn't always mean dollars and cents. Now sit high and look down on these words. I owe you no thanks. Stop in the name of my Lord and Savior this day. Do your fellow man and women and children right. It's the only law.
Good evening. My name is Karen Spott, and I work for the Rochester City School District, and I am the chairperson for preschool special education. 2 years ago, I came before this legislature in September, October, November. I actually came to several meetings and brought parents who told you about how short services were for their children, and that reimbursement rates hadn't changed in almost 10 years. Last year, this was front and center in our Democrat and Chronicle. Justin Murphy actually wrote 2 articles in the paper talking about our shortages of services, and a lot of this has to do with lack of reimbursement. We also have an increase in the number of autistic children in our district, as well as children with special needs, medically fragile. Like the woman was saying before, we're seeing children with cancer. So I'm here to tell you that is now September, 2 years later, and that the legislature has not again increased reimbursement rates. They were $52 a half an hour for related services 2 years ago when I stood here, and now they're still $52 a half an hour. There's been studies that have been provided to the Department of Health. There's been studies that have even gone across New York State saying that we need a definite increase in services. Presently, there are 75 children in early intervention, and I want to make myself perfectly clear. This is not just the Rochester City School District. This is all 23 school districts in Monroe County. There are 75 children in early intervention, birth to 3, who are on a waiting list. In the Rochester City School District, which I can only speak for myself, we have about 10 to 15 kids. It's the first week of school, and we can't find services. I will tell you that I am giving the names of the legislators, and the state people to our parents so that they can call. And I would appreciate that you would look into this for the sake of our most needy little ones. Thank you so much.
Our next 3 speakers are Joel Shapiro, Barbara Hughes, and Donald Adams.
Can I give you this before I speak? Yes. Hand this in.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joel Shapiro. I only have 2 minutes to speak. I've been here a lot of times asking for information about carfentanil, which is classified as a weapon of mass destruction. You know, what kind of records does Monroe County have of it? I made a Freedom of Information Act request. After 4 months, the 11th hour, I make that 10 hours, 59 minutes. I finally got my response, and this is the proper response if carfentanil is found in your area. Now, what I got in response was this report of opioids for 2017 from the Monroe County Examiner. And you'll see that fentanyl and the analogs are 261 instances. Now, the thing that I want to say is that number of fentanyl and analogs, the analogs should contain carfentanil. But I called up and I said, 261, that's a big number. How is it, do you test for carfentanil? And I talked to Mr. Zerby, and he said, you know, he's the chief medical examiner investigator. We test for carfentanil. But then I find out Monroe County doesn't have the equipment necessary to test for carfentanil. So, in effect, we are guided under bogus information or insufficient information, information that is under rose-colored glasses. This is about a weapon of biological weapon of mass destruction. So, I call up. I remember that there's this doctor in Manatee County, Florida, and he was overcome with cadavers, and he went with the University of Florida, and the University of Florida had the proper equipment to test for carfentanil. Anyway, everything that I was trying to say is in that document. You all have the email for it. We just don't have the necessary equipment. And any assurance that we don't have carfentanil in our area is bogus.
Let's respect the speaker's 2 minutes, please, and keep the uproars down. You got 2 minutes. We don't need to hear them. We want to hear you. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Barbara Hughes, and I work for the House of Mercy. And you know what? It's sickening. It's real sickness about the homeless. I see homeless come in 2 or 3 times a day, different people every day. We need justice. We need help. That's all we're asking for, is the help for the homeless. In DSS, the rent, it's like $1,000, $1,500 just for one apartment, just for one house. And it makes me, I just feel like it's not right. Only thing we want is justice. That's it. We want justice. We want love. We want peace. You give us help, we help you back. But I say this to say that. I say this to say this. Black lives matter.
Good evening to you, legislatures. As I stand before you, I come here to talk about sanctions, which is killing the homeless. You sit here and you are lawmakers, but the facts has come out. There's anywhere between 600 and 1,000 homeless people on the street at night. New York City got 10 million people. We got 750,000, but the sanctions here are more punishable than in New York City. You are lawmakers, but I stopped by here to tell you, you can change the laws. If you don't, our bloodstain will be on your hand. You can bet that, because I'm going to leave you with this. You need me like I need you. You need my vote. We need law passes. Sanction is killing us. We are dying 24 years younger. It was proven last night where one of our homeless was found in the park and went home. You are lawmakers. All we are asking you, help us change laws. There are laws that can be changed because you are lawmakers. If you don't, our blood stain is on your hand. And I'm going to leave you with this. There's a cartoon that was the rabbit and the turtle. Every time you turn around, you saw that turtle. So I want you to take a look at this white head, because I'm going to be everywhere that you will. And everybody back there will be standing with me. Thank you.
Every time you guys clap like that, we can't hear the speaker. Please respect the speaker and keep it down. I can't.
Our next 3 speakers are Sister Grace Miller, Tyron Hodge, and Patrick Blaswell. Thank you.
First of all, I want to ask a question. I've been here to many legislative sessions, and people have been allowed to stand in the back. When we came in tonight, the Homeless Union, we were told we can't stand in the back. Now, I want to know why an exception was made tonight for the homeless union, that we cannot stand back there when I've been here at many sessions and people have stood back there. And I'd like to know who gave that order. And by now I know you've heard that last night one of our homeless men, brothers, was found dead in Washington Square Park. This is heartbreaking news for all of us who are homeless and work with the homeless. They are brothers and sisters, and they are your brothers and sisters also in Christ. Now, I want to know how you can ignore a homeless person who dies in the park and has been sanctioned over and over and over again. We're here tonight to tell you the sanctions have to be stopped, because the sanctions are keeping our people homeless and are putting more and more homeless on the streets. There's a reason why this man was in the park last night. He should have been in a home. He was not in a home. That rests on your shoulders as well as ours. We're trying to do something about it, but we need your help to change these laws that the welfare county, the Monroe County, the welfare office places upon our people. We've spoken to the leaders before. We're here tonight to say we want the end of sanctions. We want our homeless to be treated with respect and dignity.
These outbursts are using up her 2 minutes. So keep it up, and she's going to be done in 2 minutes.
And you know that last time I was here, Harry Murray is going to give his study, report on his study. His study on homeless people the results have stated that homelessness is a death sentence. We have proof, because last night a homeless person died outside on our streets. Homeless men lose 20 years of their lives, dying in their 50s. This man was in his 50s. Homeless women lose 30 years of their lives. This has got to stop, and the only ones who can stop it are the leaders of this Monroe County, because you are the ones that make the laws. And it is a fact that you can make changes. You keep saying you can't, but you can, because you have much more leeway than you use in helping our homeless. So we're here tonight to demand an end of the sanctions. And we are telling you that we want our homeless to be treated with respect, with love, with compassion, because our homeless are God's people, just like any other person on earth belongs to God. And you know that. And sometimes I wonder how you can go home at night and rest in your comfortable homes, your comfortable beds, food in your refrigerator, food on your table, and not worry about the people who are on the streets, who don't have a home, who don't have a bed, who don't have food. That has to rest on your shoulder. How can you go home and rest, especially with these cold months coming on? I can't do it. How come you can do it? The last thing I want to say is that the Cadillac has 96 empty beds. Why is a homeless man outside in a park when we have a Cadillac with empty rooms in it because a wealthy developer wants to come and make money off the backs of the poor? This has got to stop.
Houston, Rochester, we have a problem. And I acknowledge this lady a whole lot in whenever I get up to speak. And she's a white lady, and I don't even know if that matters. I don't know why I say it all the time. But I would like to bring reference to really why I try to acknowledge her, because she's one of the main factors of somebody that is changing my life tremendously. And I'm starting to understand just what's happening. I mentioned outside that I made a vow about staying here in Rochester, even though my relationship fell apart, and I was going to be here for my kids. And I just, experienced a moment with my kids about me trusting God to do such a thing because I don't have family members here. And, my kids were able to show me that they now see God in their life. And I want to make sure that you understand why this is so important, because some people like power, right? And I want to show you and demonstrate to you what power really is. Because I've heard her story about how she was able to make a decision where she had a career that was already mapped out, designated for her, with everything that was going to be wonderful. And she saw an injustice, and she made a decision to turn around and say, this is more important than my career. And without supports that she had at the time, she was able to still go forward, not knowing, not having a clue of where this vision that she had would ever end up. Now you can see the vision right standing on Ormond Street, on Central Avenue, and see that what it takes to make a change is to take a stand. It's to take a stand, and even if no one supports you, even if no one shares this vision, and you see that it's the right thing to do, like my brother Minister Florence said, stand on the right side. When you stand on the right side and you have a cause that is worth something, you will see some change. You just have to make a stand. You, just like she said, do you go home feeling comfortable about, where you have ended up in your career? Is it all about a career with you? Or do you feel, do you have that moment in your gut that you say, am I really living my purpose? I want to be an individual like her, what I have seen her demonstrate, to stand on something that I see is right. No matter what, whether it value, that it has benefits of finance, I see something that needs to change. And she stood, and that's why I'm here with her. And that's why you see so many people in here. And, and it's
please summarize.
Because we're starting to see what it takes to make a stand. Thank you.
I'm Patrick Bradwell from the Homeless Union. We're talking about sanctions. For those of you who don't know what a sanction is a threat and penalty of disobeying a law or rule. In other words, if an individual is found in noncompliance with a rule or order that DSS give to an individual for the provisions of real and necessary shelter expenses, and then they're not denied and then taken away. Seriously, I've been watching after my brothers and sisters that are homeless on the street because I ran into an obstacle with rendering me homeless. And I used to walk around and I used to say, these people need to get a job, they need to do this and they need to do that. And we stereotype these individuals and you think they're nobody. But you know what? I'm educated. I got good sense. I get up and go to work every chance I get. If I had a job that'll work me 24 hours a day, I'll work 23 of them and ask them, can I get 2 extra hours? And I've been homeless. I ran into the obstacle. And this is why I do what I do. That's why I'm here today. And I'm asking everybody in this room to come together as a team to do away with these sanctions. Sanctions are rendering people homeless. Homelessness is killing individuals in our streets. It's provoking them to be introduced to drugs. It's provoking them to be mentally disabled because, you know what, the first couple of weeks I was homeless, I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know who I was. I just wondered, did God turn his back on me? What happened? But I realized today he put me in a position for me to help and assist these individuals. These individuals need help. We need help. We need to do away with these sanctions. In the state of New York, which got millions of individuals, the city of Monroe County has got more people sanctioned, more homeless people than you can see. I know because I ride the street at night, giving them sandwiches, talking to people, going to shelters on a daily basis. It's ridiculous. We are human. We are to be loved and we are to love one another. Put a hand out. Show our society some love. Love yourselves. Love one another. Do away with these sanctions.
Our next three speakers are Allie Dettinger, Angela Davis, and Harry Murray.
Hi, my name is Allie Dettinger, and I am a full-time live-in staff member at Northridge Church. I also run an outreach team that builds relationships with the marginalized homeless in our society and in our city. As a woman of faith, I hold a strong and distinctive belief in the Bible, and there's two commands that really stand out to me that I try to hold to. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's been very difficult to fully love my neighbor as myself because there's clear public policy that's hurting my neighbor. So I find it my obligation to try and end the policy. This public policy stems directly out of the Monroe County DHS system. The high number of sanctions compared to other cities does significantly more harm than good for a person who's trying to break the cycle of poverty. Imagine if my outreach team denied support to 70% of the people who called on us to partner with them. I don't think we'd be a very effective outreach team. Time and time again, I hear stories on the streets from people that have been sanctioned and feel like they're trying to get on their feet in a broken system. Others have come to terms with the fact that it's a broken system in DHS, and they've given up altogether on getting help from them. Over the last year, I've seen 3 friends pass who've been denied services or given up altogether from getting help through DHS. I agree with the United Nations that affordable housing is not a privilege, as DHS seems to think it is, but it is a God-given right. These men wanted housing and could not get it. As a result, their deaths are on all of us. Last night, my outreach team went out, and I went to the park that keeps getting referred to, where I found a man slumped over. Before I realized who it was, I had called 911, we had started chest compressions, we had administered Narcan. This is a human being. His name was Robert. Say his name! This is a person! He lived a long and hard life, and he's called the streets his home for years and years because DHS gave up on him years ago. Homelessness has become a death sentence in Rochester, New York, but we have an opportunity to change how we love the marginalized in our society. Ending sanction in our DHS system will not solve all the problems, but it's a darn good place to start.
Good evening, good evening. I'm Angela Davis. All right. My experience last week at DHS, it almost caused me to have a panic attack. They have an FBI department. I relocated here last year, and I needed help, so I went to DHS. There's an FBI department. I asked the investigator. At that time, I just asked her what was her name. She said Investigator K. That's all the information she gave me. She asked me, how did I get my nails and my toes done? I mean, it was a very personal interview. This is a FBI, I've been up and down the East Coast. I've never seen an FBI department. And that's my second experience there. When I came last year, January, same thing, same investigator, I remember her. Something's got to be done. Like I said, I almost had a panic attack. I just couldn't believe some of the things. She wouldn't give me anything with my signature. I learned years ago that everyone has rights. My aunt taught me that. And to me, that she didn't fulfill my rights. In order for me to figure out why she wouldn't give me a copy of what I signed, I would have had to wait in the waiting room all over again, which I already waited an hour and 45 minutes. I had an appointment at 9. I didn't want to wait again. I volunteered at the House of Mercy. My demand there, I felt like I needed to leave, but I informed her I would be back. I'm a fighter, and just help us. I mean, I'm one that's standing up. Just help. I'm not even reading from my script. I mean, it's not right. Somebody needs to do something. We're asking y'all to help us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Harry Murray, professor of sociology at Nazareth College. I've run the Saturday meal at St. Joseph's House for over 30 years. Last month, I authored a report on public assistance comparing Monroe County to Erie, Onondaga, and New York City, the other large urban counties, using statistics published by the state OTDA. I did the study as a follow-up to two previous studies. In the first one, I found that in July 2017, when St. Joseph's House, or House of Mercy, called to try to place someone in emergency shelter, they were told 34% of the time that the person could not be placed because they were sanctioned. Secondly, I studied obituaries of homeless persons at the House of Mercy over the past 25 years, which showed that the average age at death for homeless men was 55, while the average age at death for women was 42, just a little over half the life expectancy of women in Monroe County. These results led to the disturbing likelihood that DHS sanctioning practices leave many persons homeless, and that homelessness is itself a life-threatening situation. Just a few highlights from the current report. In each of the past 13 years, Monroe County has denied between 70 and 80% of applications for public assistance. Onondaga denied between 51 and 62%, Erie between 32 and 53%, New York City between 28 and 40%. Monroe County has been denying public assistance applicants at twice the rate of New York City. Monroe County has more recipients sanctioned for durational drug alcohol violations than all of New York City, despite the fact that New York City has more than 10 times the number of public assistance recipients. We also have more recipients sanctioned for employment violations than New York City. I have copies of the full report to distribute. If you're having trouble sleeping at night, all those statistics might help. On the other hand, if you grasp the human cost involved in the statistics, reading the report might lead you to even more sleeplessness. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Sister Rita, Tyree Morales, and Yolanda Bautista.
So tonight you have heard Dr. Murray talk about the statistics of people who are homeless and how it does shorten their life. And of course the reality hit home last night as Robert was found dead at Washington Square Park. It's a very harsh truth of Dr. Murray's study. We really want you to do something about this. We want you to hear the cries of our homeless. The Homeless Union is here telling you about the harshness of the sanctions of Monroe County compared to other counties, especially compared to New York City. We are asking for the end of sanctions that your welfare office imposes on our poor. We have heard too often that you can't do anything about these regulations, but we know this is not true, and you do have the leeway to make the changes that need to be made. What you are actually doing is punishing the poor for being poor. You are putting them out on the street because they don't follow your rules. Are you taking a look at the harshness of the rules and policies? The poor do not choose to be poor. They are poor because of your system that keeps poor people down, keeps them oppressed while the wealthy become wealthier, often off the backs of the poor. You put more time into helping the wealthy become wealthier while establishing more stringent rules, policies, and laws to lock the poor into poverty. And this is a terrible injustice. Another case in point is the Cadillac Hotel. The wealthy donor who buys the Cadillac and welfare workers, Monroe County workers, are helping to get the people removed from the hotel to make it easier on the developer. Today, the Cadillac stands empty. Some of the tenants that were housed there are on the street. Where is the justice in this? You must do something to make this change. People are dying on our streets. Where is the justice and the compassion? And what are you going to do about this? We ask you to rethink your policies. And let's come up with a plan that is going to make sure that every person has a place to be inside and not be forced outside on the street. And that place, one of those places could be the Cadillac Hotel. So let's think about that and see what we can come up with. Thank you.
Is this thing on? Yeah, it's on great. Yeah, all right. My name is Ty Morales. I am a member of St. Joe's House Hospitality. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. Yeah. Can I ask you guys a serious question? It's just I'm young, so I don't know, so I need to ask you guys. And you're allowed to raise your hand. It's nothing bad. Have any of you ever experienced being homeless? It's a curious question. You can raise your hand. It's okay. No? None of you. No, I mean, legitimately none of you. Yeah, you have. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody else? No? No, you have. Yes. Okay. All right. So for those of you who have experienced it, I'm sorry, let me switch that around. For some of you who haven't experienced it, it's a crazy world out there, people. I'm 24 years old right now. I was 19 when I became homeless. Crazy. I mean, if you figure you graduate, you come out of high school, you know what you want to do, but you don't. I sadly had to become homeless starting at 19 due to a situation with family. And it was tough. Like my friend Allie here, she, we work in the same unit of people where the homeless, you deserve a place to be. You deserve a place to call home. You deserve a place to say, I can rest my feet and say, this is mine. This is my place. I can say, wow, I can eat and I can drink and I can feel warm. Now, for you, those who have experienced homelessness, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What's up with the coughs in the back? I can hear you guys. I'm joking. But please, I ask you to please just be considerate and try to understand where I'm coming from. As a young adult African-American man in the city of Rochester, no one should be homeless. No one from my age to this time, to a woman who is 40-something, to a man who is 40-something, should be able to live a long expectancy life. You too, you gentlemen in the front. And there's my time. I just ask you guys to please consider, really just use your hearts and just really consider and take a look at what situation our city goes through, and please be able to make the correct choice. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening. I have a question. How many of you are registered to vote? Okay. Then you have power. Use it. Vote. You have a lot. You've got a lot of power. These people here, they vote for you. Our governor, the one that went to Texas to make sure that the illegal immigrants had a nice, warm place to sleep, and make sure that they had nice big screen TVs. He's our governor. He's so good, because believe me, the illegal immigrants, They had a really nice, big color TVs. He also went to Puerto Rico, made sure that Puerto Ricans were doing fine. So you decide, were they working good for you? Were they working for you? Was Barack Obama working for you when he said, count all the Muslims that we have in the United States of America? And actually, we have the largest Muslim nation. Wow! And he was the president of the United States, and he said that. That really irked me. It upset me. You know, I represent children that are abused, that have been beaten, that have been burned, who will probably grow up and be homeless. They're not here, but you know what? They're in here and they're in here. I'm terrified coming in here, because believe me or not, I'm very shy. I'm extremely shy. But my anger and the fact that those babies, they're crying, they're waiting for somebody to come and get them. You have no idea how many children die in foster care. I've seen children get abused like you wouldn't believe. This summer, I volunteered. This little boy lost 2 cousins, 1 uncle. We watched a movie. It was called A Day of the Dead. This little boy, 8 years old, he says, "Grandma, are you scared? Are you going to cry?" I said, "No, honey, what's wrong?" He said, "Well, you look like you're going to cry." I said, "No, I'm not going to cry." He says, my cousins died, and 8 years old, cute little boy. And I said, "Well, honey, how do you feel like that?" He covered his face. He says, "I'm scared, Grandma." I said, "What are you afraid of, honey?" He said, "Well, when it's my turn." I said, "Whoa." I got up, I hugged him. I said, "No, honey, it's not going to be your turn. This is not something that happens or it has to happen." But this little boy believed, because that's all he hears. So I'm here representing them. You have a vote. Weigh in. Think about who helped you. Who helped you? I myself, I walked away. I am now a Republican. And I'm not changing that, because I lost my party. I know what happened to it, but it's not the party that it used to be. But the people that work here, I respect them, because I know that in their hearts, they're here for the people. Rochester, New York is Rochester, New York. And we do help each other, because I know there's people here. And whenever anybody has gotten hurt, they go out there and they do their best. And forgive me, I can't see you guys. I'm so glad I'm legally blind. But I don't know, no offense to the people that are here, because these are good people.
Okay,
Rochester has done really great. Thank you very much. And for the children that weren't able to be here, their spirits are here. Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Anisha Gundoer, David Topa, and Thomas Gregory.
Hi everyone, my name is Anisha and I'm a 4th-year medical student at the University of Rochester, and I'll be soon on my way to becoming a community pediatrician. I'm here tonight to echo the remarks you've already heard of the importance of county funding for early intervention services for children under the age of 5 with disabilities. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Part C, is a national mandate that all children below the age of 3 with suspected or confirmed developmental behavioral impairment should be referred to early childhood intervention services. At the heart of this mandate is a shared belief that all children have the right to learn and reach their full potential, and research that demonstrates the effectiveness of early intervention in enabling children to realize this right. For example, low birth weight and preterm infants who receive early intervention services had improved cognitive performance at 8 years of age. Even more encouragingly, these same children at age 18 had better academic performance and a lower dropout rate. Another study showed that children from families with low resources in particular had improved developmental outcomes with early intervention. Despite this mandate and this evidence, our children with disabilities in Monroe County are at risk for not receiving the early intervention services that they need. Due largely to reimbursement cuts, many providers in our community are no longer able to provide the early intervention services that they were providing before. Consequently, in 2017, approximately 20% of children between the ages of 0 and 3 in our community spent time on a waiting list for early intervention services. Early intervention is only effective if it can be accessed during the critical time when children's brains are developing. If we miss this window, we are too late. As a community, let's commit to rising to our national mandate and prioritize our children's futures by investing in the resources to help them reach their full potential. And I also wanted to mention that I'm here with the Children's Agenda tonight. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name's Dave Topa. I'm a pediatrician, small business owner at Pittsford Pediatric Associates. I'm speaking here tonight again on behalf of the most vulnerable children in our area, those who go through the CPS systems and who are abused. First of all, I'd like to thank the administration for providing the quarterly updates regarding the 8-step improvement plan for CPS. I think it's a great start. It's a great conversation starter. I'd like to see those continue. As we move forward, though, I think additional statistics that would be helpful would be the actual number of the caseloads per worker. That's one of the most defining stats and helpful stats that we have to help us gauge where we are in terms of our fight against child abuse. And the other thing I want everyone to keep in mind is that strengthening CPS is just one part of the issue here. We have to remember that CPS is a safety net. Child abuse is a larger problem than what CPS can handle, and we are actually still seeing child abuse as a major problem in Monroe County. And I like to use my use of vaccines in the office to describe how CPS and abuse works. So if you think about whooping cough, it's a bacterial illness. We have an antibiotic that we can use to treat it. But what works better in our practice is the use of vaccines. Vaccines actually prevent whooping cough from going through community and affecting children in the first place. Keep in mind that CPS is actually more like the antibiotic. We're getting involved after the problem has already started, and oftentimes after irreparable harm has been done. Let's look upstream. Let's go to the prevention. Let's look to continue to fund home visitation programs, especially those that work with high needs families, so that we can stop the problem from beginning in the first place. So as budget season comes along, please continue to consider to increase funding for these home visitation programs so that we can actually take great care of these kids. Thank you.
My name is Thomas Gregory, and I can't think of a more appropriate place to be on September 11th than right here in these legislative chambers. Given what happened 17 years ago, it's nice to know that we're still in business and doing it well. I look to that flag behind me in front of all of you and see that as a symbol of everything that's good in the world. And that's never going to change. Tonight, I've heard a lot on the homeless problem. Those of you who know me intimately probably are aware that I've lived on the street since I think 1995, 94. And I have to say this as a compliment to the legislature here. For those of you who knew of my living situation, you always treated me with respect. You always listened to the words I had to say. You even at times sought me out and asked questions not regarding my living state, but other areas of government which I had the privilege and the opportunity to participate along with you. I love what we're doing. I know sometimes we don't always do it well. And I know that it's with the budgetary limitations we have, it's often difficult to reach to all the problems that thwart our society, especially in a time of economic downturn. But I know this with sincerity, that the heart and the hearts of this legislative body are good. And I think that's a comfort to maybe all of us who live in a difficult way, to know that the people who represent us on both sides of the aisle are doing the best they can with the resources they have. And I should include the officers around us, the volunteers, the fire, all the people who are part of our public service community. Today, I saw the Gannett newspaper. Forgive me if I'm emotional about this. And I read the paper saying that the events that happened 17 years ago are still plaguing us today in the lives and the loss of lives of our volunteers, our public servants, and all the people who rushed to that heinous thing that happened down in New York City. And I have to say this, what I know of the officers and the public servants and all people who serve this country, what I know to be true is that if they knew what was going to happen to them 17 years later, I can say with certitude, they still would have rushed to that calamity. That speaks not only of our public servants, but it also speaks of this legislative body, which some way will find a way to solve the problems, which are probably endless, but they'll find a way. Thank you for the many opportunities you have given me to be a part of this body. God bless America.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we will recess the September 11th, 2018 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature and convene the Pure Waters Administrative Board for the Rochester Pure Waters District. Madam Clerk, please note the attendance and read the first item on the agenda.
PWEB Agenda Item Number 1, Referral 18-0236.
Moved by Legislator Bruce, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item. We will now recess the Rochester Pure Waters District and adjourn the Pure Waters Administrative Board. The September 11th, 2018 meeting of the Legislature is reconvened. We will now proceed to the consideration of local laws. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda? Legislator Conley.
Mr. President, at this time I move that the Legislature consider items number 1 through 21 on the agenda tonight with the passage of one vote.
Seconded by Legislator Cayley and Delahanty. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. We'll now move to item number 22.
Item number 22, Referral 18-0247.
Moved by Legislator Zale, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Broth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple questions about this referral. I'll start with the traditional one, and that is, why is the referral being treated as a matter of urgency?
Through the chair, this is deemed to be a matter of urgency related to the urgency of our opioid crisis epidemic, and that the dollars being funded here for these vital services will go a great distance towards addressing the immediate treatment needs for individuals suffering from addiction.
Thank you. Through the President to the Administration, am I correct to understand that the $564,000 increase is going to be used for the contract with Helio Health, or is it going to be used for something different?
You are correct. Through the chair, you're correct in that assumption. It will go to Helio Health based on an existing contract, and they are the sole provider currently for these types of services in our county.
Thank you. And then through the President, does that mean then, therefore, that the contract amount for Helio Health will no longer be $2.2 million, and instead it would be about $2.89 million?
Through the chair, in total, that's correct.
Thank you. And then finally, on paragraph 3 of the referral, I believe there are two errors. I could be wrong. I'm willing to be corrected. But it says, please refer to the attached purchase service information form for disclosure of information required pursuant to Resolution 223 of 2007 as amended by Resolution 11 of 2008. I believe that should be 2018 for Resolution 11 and should be Resolution 432 of 2017. Am I correct or incorrect? Through the President.
That was a little fast, Legislator Broth. I think they want to hear it again.
Oh, sorry. I'll go slower. I suspect that there's an error that it says it should be it says it's Resolution 223 of 2007. It should be Resolution 432 of 2017, and it should be a Resolution 11 of 2018, not 2008. Is that correct?
To the President, that's correct.
Thank you. In such case, I think I would offer an amendment to change those as I just discussed.
Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment carries.
I'll just take a moment to bask in the glory. Thank you, Mr. President. That is all.
Good call. Any further discussion? Seeing none, back to the original item. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 23, referral 18-0266.
Moved by Legislator Conley, second by Legislator Rockow. The floor is now open for the purpose of nominating a clerk of the legislature. Legislator Conley.
Thank you. I would like to nominate John D. Moffitt, Jr. to serve as clerk of the legislature.
I'd like to second that.
Moved by Legislator Conley, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Are there any other nominations? Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just grant me this to say thank you to our current clerk of the legislature for the work that she's done, and she will be missed. But at this time, I would like to nominate the legislative director of the minority office, Teresa Bertolone.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Cayley, seconded by Legislator Harris. Are there any other nominations? I now declare the nominations closed. I think we have to go to a roll call vote.
Yes.
The clerk will call the roll. Please respond by stating the last name of the nominee of your choice. If you choose not to vote for a candidate, please respond with the word abstain.
So Mr. Marinetti is excused. Ms. Cayley?
Bertolone.
Mr. Elkoffer? Mr. Ansello? Mr. Baroth?
Bertolone.
Ms. Boyce? Mr. Brew? Mrs. Conley? Mr. Delahanty? Mrs. DeFlorio? Mrs. Draw? Mr. Felder? Mr. Flagler Mitchell? Ms. Harris? Mr. Hebert? Mr. Howland? Mr. Lightfoot? Mr. Mafucci? Mr. Mitchkay? Mr. Morelli? Mr. Moyo?
Bertolone.
Mr. Rocco? Mr. Shepard? Ms. Taylor? Mr. Terp? Mr. Wilcox? Mr. Wilt? Mr. Zale? President Carbone?
Moffitt.
17-11 for Moffitt.
Congratulations, Mr. Moffitt. Before we conclude, I'd also like to thank Diana for making my job so easy over the past few years, right? Thank you very much. We'll miss you. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Conley.
Stand adjourned until the next legislature meeting on Tuesday, October 10th, 2018.